everybody. Welcome to another episode of Supportive Advice. They come and they come and they come and they come and they come. This is your host, Aquila Wheatley. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of Ohio. If you are wondering who I am and why I am here, feel free to visit my website at www.supportiveadvice.com. If you're interested in um, joining the call, go ahead and scan that QR code, and it will put you directly into our room. And all you have to do is press that call button. So soon we will have the panel. That's Mojo, who's only going to be staying on for a little while, and then we also have there she is, and then we also have Mr. Mochismo, better known as Dante, and he gives us the smooth male perspective. So last episode we kind of touched on some transgenerational habits or behaviors, and then one of the listeners, I'm pretty sure I said transgenerational. Pretty sure they heard transgendered. So the conversation kind of took a turn. It kind of went um, away. um, but I'm kind of glad that it did because it's important that everyone is represented. That is hugely important to me, that everyone is equally represented, and that we try to gain understanding for any and all perspectives. So at this point, we are going to be going back to our beloved Reddit, and we are going to do a little bit more of Am I the Asshole? And we're going to see. We're going to see who's the asshole here. Just give me 1 second. Let me go ahead on in here. All right. So here's a post from 2 days ago. It says, is this Am I the Asshole though? Let me look. Here we go. I told my daughter not to bother applying for college. Oh, okay. So I am going to read this one because I mean I have a daughter around college age, and so I'm interested, and hopefully you all will be interested too. So Mo, I am going to bring you on. I'm going to invite you to speak. Whenever you feel like you need to jump off, please do. Resting is most important. Mental health is um, most important. So always make sure that we're putting those first. Um, Mr. Machismo, are you on here? Let me know if you're on here, because I'm not seeing you. All right, so I'm going to just read this here. Uh, Send me another invite. Okay, I'll send you another invite. All right. All right, so I just sent you another invite, Mojo. Mr. Machismo, if you're on here, go ahead and let me know. Put it in the chat. I'll invite you in as one of the speakers. Hey, everybody who was on TikTok, make sure you guys keep those likes up. I appreciate you. I'm also live on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm also live on Callin. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. It says, "This is a throwaway account. I am a 35-year-old female, and I have a 16-year-old daughter. My daughter has a late birthday, early mid-December. She is going into her senior year of high school. She is a very smart girl, and I'm proud of what she's accomplished. But she's also young and naive in a lot of ways. She's easily manipulated. She doesn't pay much attention to her surroundings. She can't stand up for herself. She constantly still calls or texts myself or her father for help with things. More recently, I've also been concerned about her doing dangerous things or submitting to peer pressure from her friends. I've met them and they are not good kids. I've told her to stop talking to them, but she refuses and tries to go behind my back. For these reasons, among others, her father and I have decided that we are not going to let her go off to college as long as she's a minor under our care. This means that she won't be going to fall 2024 because she doesn't turn 18 until December. I am not trying to stifle her, but I do want her to be safe. She was recently talking about starting to fill out college applications, and I told her not to bother. I explained that we weren't letting her go until she's old enough to make that decision for herself. She started crying and yelling at me, but I refused to budge. I don't think I'm being unreasonable, and honestly, her reaction is more evidence of her immaturity. But apparently, she texted her aunt, who has been calling me an asshole. Gotta love aunts, right? Um, so, am I the asshole? Essentially, is the big question here. And hey, Shardall, nice to see you. Thank you for coming back. I hope that you got a chance to hear it because I was long and I don't really want to read it again. Um, so, with that being said, how much this is just me asking a question here. How much more mature would she really be in like a few more months? You know what I mean? Like I feel like mom is just using this as a way to kind of keep her close, but she's not gonna be any more mature in what she can't start in August. So what? A few more months. How much more mature is she gonna be by then? Turning 18 doesn't like flip a light switch that just all of a sudden makes us make good decisions. So I mean, in all honesty, it's just a way to keep her close. um and it sounds like she's just rationalizing it with the fact that she's a minor. Now, am I saying that I would or wouldn't do the same thing? No. But am I recognizing that it's deeper than what she's making it seem? Absolutely. Mo, I be on some trash. They do sometimes. Sometimes they do. They be on
They
some
do.
trash.
My daughter auntie be on some trash. Um, I would say that I agree with you. However, I think mom is the butthole because it sounds like she has sheltered her daughter to the point that she can't make decisions. And I also learned having a teenager myself, it's best that I don't tell her who not to hang out with. It's best that I share different things or why this person concerns me. And she listens. She act like she don't listen, but later on in her scenario, she found out, I was right to some kind of um, some kind of point I was right. So therefore she be like, Mom, you know what, you was right about such and such. She did this and she did that. And I'll be like, oh, okay, so how you feel about it? But my daughter's 16 too. She just got approved by high school. They said if she do everything she need to do, she can graduate this year. She won't be 17 till she may. Does she make the best decisions? No, but I still will allow her to go to college. She can't go to no University of Cincinnati, but she can go to community college.
Is that what she's trying to go to University of Cincinnati?
No, I'm just that's where I went. That's where I drunk my life away. That's
Oh.
where I party. I got a degree in partying, drinkology. Not finishing school, okay? I didn't finish there. And so, but she's, after this year, she can go to community college and they're going to pay for a year of her community college and then she can move on to whatever as she, you know, get older. She's 16 now, so she won't be 17 until, oh, she'll be 17 when she go. But however, I trust her enough and I feel as though you shouldn't stop them from going to school. She shouldn't stop her from going to school. I don't think she should let her go to a university. She can't go to FAM or nothing like that. But
So, I mean, essentially, how old were you when you went to college? When you went to the University of Cincinnati?
I was 19.
All right. And that is my point. I was 18 when I went off to college. You were 19 when you went off to college. We weren't all of a sudden super mature because we had turned a certain age, and then some off and on switch flicked on, and we just turned into these rational adults. We had to go through points of trial and error to get a better understanding of life. How many people find out who their friends are by finding out who their friends aren't? And that is experience. That's not
Yep.
something that you could just teach somebody. Now I can look at my daughter all day long and I can say that person's not your friend. Nope, not your friend. That one over there, side eye, not your friend. But
Hmm.
she's gonna have to get that experiential knowledge, and then she's going to know what to look for. Then her spidey senses will start tingling when she starts to see the same patterns over and over again. And sometimes experiential knowledge is the best type of knowledge. And that goes back to what I said before. You cannot shield your children from the world because you think that you're helping them, but you're really crippling them, because then they get out there, because eventually they will get out there, and they don't know how to emotionally regulate. They don't know how to self-soothe. They're just as naive as they were at 17, at 22. And so it's like at some point you have to be able to let the kid go. Now it's hard on my heart saying that she's the asshole, but I do want to say that she's definitely hiding behind her daughter's age, because she's not going to trust her anymore in 4 or 5 months than she trusts her now. She's just not ready to let her go. She's not ready to let her go. Dante, I'm gonna invite you to speak. Dante, aka Mr. Machismo. And Mo, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but feel free to dip out whenever you need to, because your rest is most important. Making sure that you're in the best mental health space by getting that rest and being able to recharge and recuperate from work or whatever else is going on is most important. So just let me know whether it's via the chat or whatnot, and then go ahead and jump off whenever you need. So Dante, did you get to hear the Am I the Asshole for this week?
I did not. I did not.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through it. I'm not word by word because it was kind of long, but essentially, there's a mother. She's 35. She has a daughter that's 16. Um, I guess her daughter's about to be 17 soon. And essentially, when she turns 17, she's going to be graduating. And then she wants to go off to college. Her mom says that she's naive. She doesn't really make good decisions. She doesn't really like her friends. She just kind of runs down, the fact that her daughter is a teenager, essentially. And she's saying that she told her not to look for colleges, not to apply for colleges, because she's not going to let her go to school until she's 18 years old. And so myself and Mo were kind of talking, and it kind of hit me that it really was less about the age and more about the fact that she just doesn't trust her daughter. And she seems not to believe that her daughter is capable of making decisions. But as I was saying to Mo, there's no switch that you flick on as soon as you turn 18 that turns you into a responsible adult. I mean, I had a kid at 19. That was not the most responsible move. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, people do things at 18. People do things at 19. You have to have experiences, and mom is kind of crippling daughter in this case by not letting her go out and make mistakes. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's you definitely can't block her from growing up. It's definitely a thing that happens on a lot of levels. That's not anything that's abnormal humanly. Where you have different personality types. Where you have some mothers that they just throw you to the wolves. Like, is you alive in there? I bet. They go on about their day. Then you got some moms that's micromanagers that they just is worried about every detail of your life. Then you got a few that's like in between. But I think you have to, regardless of where you fall into that, be because I don't want to just say mothers. I should say parents. I should say because is males too, men and dads too. But you want to give your children the ability to make mistakes because, to be honest, that's really the best way to learn is by bumping that head. You bump that head enough, you know, oh yeah, let me not get up from under this table. Let me back up, and you get a understanding of how to navigate, and then
Right.
you even get the ability to navigate based on your personality type and what works for you. Because what may have worked for Mom Duke, so your pappy might not work for you. So definitely it does a disservice when the parent kind of almost vicariously lives through the kid.
Absolutely. So we have Shirt Off. He is the next caller. So I'm not sure if you heard the whole "Am I the asshole?" Um, but definitely would love to hear your viewpoint. So feel free to speak. Turn your mic on and say something. About the topic.
So what's the topic?
So the topic is it's a mother asking, is she the asshole because she has a 17-year-old daughter who wants to go to college, who graduated from high school. She doesn't think that her daughter is street smart enough to protect herself or be away from home. So she told her daughter that she couldn't go off to school or couldn't go to any college until she was 18. Um,
So so in this situation, I think the mother's the asshole because she's not letting her daughter be independent and live the life that she wants to.
well, that was straight to the point there. You seem like you feel pretty strong on that.
I mean like I agree with Dante is that, if you don't make mistakes, you never learn. You gotta make mistakes, and then if you make mistakes, you learn. Like, it's the hard way. You always gotta learn the hard way.
And by the
You know.
hard way, essentially, in the world of psychology, we call that experiential knowledge. And so, yeah, absolutely. I'm with you, Shirto. Do you really think that in 5 months, and this is just me asking you, that she's really going to mature more than she is now about I'm asking about the daughter because in 5 months
I
she'll
mean,
be 18.
yeah, the daughter will mature, and if the mother's not letting the daughter mature, then there's a problem with her.
All right. So if the
Because
mother,
then she's not letting her daughter mature and be independent. She's controlling the daughter and saying that you need to live, if you live under my roof, you have to do what I say. That's exactly what life is, right? When you live under somebody's roof, you got to do what they say. You live in their house, so you got to do what they say. You don't have to say what you can or can't do if you're living under your parents. If you're living
Shadow, you there?
in and do what you want.
I think that you make some really good points, and I'm with you. So I'm gonna read some comments, and so in the comments it says here, how does infantilizing her help her learn to be independent? How does stifling her help her development? So that was one comment. Um, And why isn't she more independent? That's usually the parents' job to ensure that. I had a December birthday as well and started college at 17 and was fine. But my parents had also taught me how to make decisions and be independent. Yeah, well, the problem here appears to be the parents, as they seem to have failed to teach their daughter to be independent. She may very well be better off in a community college. And so another comment is, I get the sense that anytime she tries to be independent, that her parents stop her. It's not that she is stupid or naive. However, her parents don't let her fall down and make mistakes, and that they're controlling. And then someone says it's not that they don't let her make mistakes; it's that they simply assume she'll make them and act before she even has the chance to do anything. All they've managed to do is teach her how to learned helplessness. So the comments seem to be very much in line with what everyone is already saying. That it's the parents. The parents are, and this is not just. By the way, FYI, this is not a diagnosis, but clearly I'm sensing some anxious parenting style here, where I'm afraid that she's going to make a mistake, and I'm afraid that she's going to fall into the wrong crowd, and I'm afraid. And one thing that we don't understand about anxiety is, even though someone can be born predisposition to having anxiety, it's also a learned behavior that we teach. We teach this. We teach fear. And in some cases, it's good, right? Because we say, hey, don't touch that stove. If you touch that stove, you're going to get burnt. And that is, that's an important thing to teach. It's boundaries. But it's boundaries essentially through fear. And so, at some point, there were moments in time where there were windows for this individual to have maybe gone out, made some mistakes, and learned some maturity in these areas. And it sounds like the parents kind of blocked it. Now, I wish my daughter was up here right now, my 19-year-old, because I would really love to hear her perspective of this, because, there were times where I sheltered her a lot. And so I would love to hear her perspective. I wonder if I can get her up here. Michael, if you're listening, ask Leah to come up. See if she's willing to come up. She might be, she might not. So Dante, what's your perspective on the comments that I just read? And I'm also going to let Shorto come back on as a caller. But Dante, you first.
Well, it seemed like everybody think the mom is being a little worry wart, we'll call it. Because I mean, that's kind of, that happens a lot. And it definitely sounds like things are kind of like always been like that, where this might be a mom who like maybe tell you don't do this because she just scared for you, like on some Uber, or just ultra sensitive, and it might be based on her past trauma.
Right.
And that to be honest ain't fair to the kid.
I'm with you.
But it's out of love, but it's like, it's kind of like, to the core, it's kind of, which is hard to say, but you gotta kind of say it. It's kind of selfish, because it's kind of like you scared, but the kid ain't scared. So you slowing down the kid's progression in life because you scared.
Yes, 100%, 150%. I'm with you 150%. And I'll say that I was guilty of the same thing for a long time. When my oldest daughter was little, oh my gosh, I barely wanted to take her to the park because I felt like anything that could happen would happen. Murphy's Law all day. And and I think that in some ways, in doing that, it was selfish of me because I did rob her of some of those experiences. And and now I'm definitely more hands off. But sometimes I wonder if I was too late on that.
Never too late. In my opinion, just because I feel like, not to quote a Drake, so but better late than never. You know, you might just have gotten over that trauma at a later time, man. Voila, now you can release her. So it's like it just is what it is. Like it's no. Uh, I feel like as humans, we think there's a roadmap because of this structure. That ain't really a roadmap. Everybody's life is their own individual depiction of life. So you know, it ain't never too late.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great perspective. That's a very empowering perspective. But let her tell it.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
you might not feel that way.
But
But
so and sometimes I it's interesting because as a parent there's things that manifest, right? So at some point you think that you're doing the right thing, but then as time goes on, all of a sudden you're realizing, oh well, why aren't they going out and doing this, or why don't they have the desire to go do that, or why do they why are they not understanding this social construct? And you realize, dag, that's probably my fault. Because I didn't want them to get hurt. And I didn't want them around people that would disappoint them, or I didn't want them, physically getting hurt. So I didn't let them go off here or go off there, or I didn't trust this person or these people. But in that, they weren't able to build the skin. Sure, though you're on, just a FYI. But but yeah, so it's crazy, is that failure to launch sometimes can be on the kid because they don't hit certain milestones just on their own. Erickson had these life phases that you had to meet, and if you didn't meet them, then essentially it would equate to you having a failure to launch, and all of that doesn't necessarily have to be on your parent.
Hey, Akila, what do you like about your job as an LMFT? Like, which kind of like individuals do you work with?
As a licensed marriage and family therapist, I work with couples, I work with individuals, I work with families, I work with adults, typically, and so yeah, I'm pretty well versed. What do I like about it? I love being able to help individuals. But I did want to ask you something, Shardal. Last time we talked, now I could be wrong, but I believe that you were talking about that you were living with your parents, right? Remember?
Yeah.
So this is a really good conversation for you to be in on. Do you think that you still live with your parents because they sheltered you too much, or or do you think that it is maybe just a decision that you've made on your own?
I think it's a decision that I made on my own to live with my parents. I could have got my own home and I could have lived on my own, but I made a decision to live with them.
Why?
I'm independent to go and get my own live on my own, but it's just hard because I don't it's kind of hard to get like when kids get kicked out of the house and their parents say to go and go and live somewhere else. It's not easy for some people to get to do that, like to when you get kicked out of the home and then you have to try and find somewhere else to stay.
Have you ever
you
lived
know
on your own?
I stayed in a dorm in college.
I think that fall on the parents too. because I'm speaking from my own experience, not sure doll. So I'm gonna say this: my mom taught me how to pay my bills early. I ain't have no choice. Like, so my first bill was a pager bill. Okay, I had the sky blue pager, and I was like, "Mom, why I gotta pay my pager bill?" She was like, "I bought it. You want it. You want to keep it. And if it's gonna stay on, you have to pay to keep it on, right?" And so then there was my car. I got a car when I was 16. Okay, my mom said, "Okay, well, if I get you this car, you're going to have to pay the insurance on this car." I was like, "Ma, how am I going to afford to do that?" She said, "Well, you got to find a job that can help you pay for your car insurance and have some money in your pocket." And so therein, I had to get good grades. I couldn't have bad grades, or she was gonna put that column lock on my car, and I wouldn't be able to drive my car. So I had some responsibility, and I was held accountable. Now, if I got in trouble at school and they was like, "Monicia is suspended," my mother was like, "Guess who ain't driving the car?" It was me, because I had to learn that there's consequences, and if I have responsibilities, I have to pay my bill, I have to get my education, and if I'm in trouble, then there's some things that's going to happen and get taken away from me. And
And some
that's
and
how
some
I
people normally
learned how to pay bills, and that's how I learned to be responsible for certain things. There were small things that she made me um responsible for, in order to teach me how to pay my bills and to budget some of my money.
and some things people also say is that never take things for granted, because people always take things for granted. That's a problem people have, is that you should never do that. Never take things for granted, that somebody's gonna always cook for you, or somebody's always gonna feed you or do things for you, and
And
keep
that's a
you.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chardell. I agree with that too. Now, with my daughter, she would take things for granted because she's spoiled. She doesn't have to. She works a job, but I don't require her to make a payment on her phone bill. But I do make her get her own hair done. So, there's some things she's learning on her own, because I won't pay to get her hair done. She has developed a talent to do hair. She does twist somebody over our house right now. A little boy over here getting his hair twisted right now. Kids from the school come over and they get their hair twisted. She had to figure out a way to hustle and make some money
and
to
and the same thing with
support
my
her
dad is
hair.
that my dad tells things I take things for granted and I shouldn't. But sometimes I don't drive, and then I ask my dad, like, I need to go to work. I don't have a car. I don't drive. So how am I gonna get there? And then my dad's saying that, I can't drive you every day. You need to get your own car, get your license, and be independent. I can't keep driving you everywhere around like that. I'm wasting gas driving you around everywhere.
So what
I can't
steps
do
are you
that.
taking, Chardell? Because I agree with your dad. What steps are you taking if you're living with
I'm
your
trying to take.
dad?
I'm taking ride share, but I can't be taking ride share all the time, like Lyft or Uber. I can't be Ubering everywhere and lifting everywhere. I don't have my own car, but like, I
So
know
Chardell,
many of my people.
let me ask you this, Chardell. Now, typically around age 16, 17, right? Individuals will start to, I don't know, go to driving school, things like that. Were you not motivated at that time to go to driving school to learn how to drive? Were you maybe more dependent on them? Were they doing everything for you at that point?
I don't know if they were dependent on me, because I don't know if that's like, I don't know how long ago that was. I don't know if I can remember that long ago. I don't know if I wanted to learn how to drive, or if I was just like wanted to, get maybe where get some experience driving.
What about now? Now I know you don't have your own car, but have you tried to get your temp so that your parents can take you to drive, or have you tried going to driving school so that you can kind of take some of the pressure off of your parents?
Yeah, cause sometimes also at my work, some of my colleagues have the same issue. They don't drive. they don't have their own car, so the only way they have to take it is maybe take public transportation, take the maybe they use any forms of ways to get to where they're going. And I also feel like they want to learn how to drive, but maybe they're not ready to, because people get nervous behind the wheel. It's very nervous feeling to when you're behind the wheel. It's not easy because they're afraid of making mistakes. It's nerve wracking, and they're not ready for you know to get behind the wheel.
But Shardal, what did you say about the mom? Right? You said she was the asshole, and you said the reason why was because she was stifling her daughter. And I'm paraphrasing here. She wasn't allowing her daughter to be independent, right? But in talking to you, you don't sound as though you are being your most independent self. Do you blame your parents for that, or do you take responsibility for that?
I don't know how to answer that. It's kind of like, yeah, I want to answer that question in the best way I can,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't know how to answer it. I want to be honest. I don't know some questions. I don't know how to give the best answer. I don't want to give a like made up answer. I want to give like the honest truth.
So give the
And
honest truth.
sometimes I don't. I sometimes I try and answer the question, but sometimes it doesn't come out right. Like I don't know how to answer it, so it's just I'm not saying that I don't want to answer the question. It's just like I don't know how to give the right answer.
Well, I want to let you know that there is no right answer. It's about really taking into consideration how you feel when you think about the fact that you're at home, or that you don't drive, or that you are just now learning how to cook based off of the conversation we had the last time you were on here. Do you take responsibility for that? Do you say, hey, my parents gave me opportunities, but I feel like I just didn't take them? Or do you say, man, my mom and my dad, they did so much for me. I appreciate them, but man, I wish I could have learned to do more on my own.
I think that's the way. That's what I meant to say. The exactly what you said. That's what was I meant to say. So I think you basically said the thing that I was about to say. So
The second one, the
yeah,
second thing.
second one.
So,
Yeah.
so I gave you an assignment the last time that you were on here, and I said learn a new recipe at least once a week so that you can learn how to cook for yourself. Did you do that?
I didn't do that.
You did not, or you did?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So I gave you a homework assignment. Why didn't you do it?
I'll do it this week.
Okay. Because if you're going to come on this show, right, then I am going to do the only thing that I know how to do, and that's help. And a part of that is giving you homework assignments to help you have some accountability towards learning a new skill. So the choice is up to you, but you said that your parents were kind of like, hey, we work and sometimes, we can't cook, and everything. And the one thing that you wanted to do was to learn some new things so that you could help them around the house. And so let's do that,
Oh,
right?
I'll find a new recipe this week and I'll make it.
Yes. And then come back on because we want to hear how it went. Okay? Learn,
Okay.
find a recipe. Doesn't have to be. I'm not asking you to be a culinary chef or anything, right? But find something that you think you might be able to make, something that will take some of the pressure off your parents. Learn a skill. Make dinner for your parents. Show them your appreciation and what you've learned, and then come back on here and tell us how it went.
So I'll make something and then I'll come on and share about what I made.
Yes, please. We because we want to
Okay.
hear that. We want to hear about your progress. And then we also
Okay.
want to talk about, some things like goals that you have for your life. You know, I know that eventually you do want to leave the house, and that there might be some anxiety around that, Sherdo, and that's okay. We've all been scared. We've all had anxiety about driving, about moving out on our own, about paying bills. All of those things sound really scary at first, but we can take them one at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time.
Like paying your taxes. Like my parents asked me that you have to pay your taxes, and I don't really do. You know like it's kind of nerve-wracking because I want to pay my taxes, but I understand that if you don't pay your taxes on tax day, the police will show up at your door because you're not paying your taxes every week.
Who told you that?
No, like if you don't on tax day, if you don't pay your taxes, IRS will show up at your door if you don't if the because you didn't pay your taxes. You forgot to pay your taxes on tax day.
Okay. So
So if you don't,
let me
so
ask
that's
you.
the worry that people have is that you don't want IRS to show up at your door because you forgot to on tax day. You completely forgot about paying your taxes and you were late to pay your taxes.
So
So they'll show up at.
I'm gonna agree. Hey James, it looked like you wanted to be a caller. So if you want, just press that call button, join the queue. So let me ask this: when do you think tax day is? Shorto.
Tax day was like I think it was like this week, and next when tax day is next year, I'll tell my parents that I'll be responsible, and I'll pay my taxes, and then you don't have to pay them for me. I'll make sure to pay my taxes on when the next tax day is, because I want to pay my own taxes so I can show that I'm pay I want to pay being independent, so I want to pay my own bills, pay my own taxes, do everything, and show them that that you don't have to do all those things for me. I can do those on my own. I can be responsible and pay my taxes accordingly, and pay my bills accordingly,
Yeah, you can. You
and
absolutely
show
can.
them that you're responsible and you're paying your taxes every day, and then now your parents don't have to do it, so like they don't even have to meddle, and like you're paying for your taxes and paying for your bills, doing all of that stuff.
Absolutely. So here's what we don't want to do though. We don't want to set a goal that is so huge, right? That we scare ourselves out of it, right? We want to do something called setting SMART goals. So let's start one at a time. When we talk about paying our taxes, when we talk about bills, when we talk about all of these things, what is something that you want to do first? What is the number one priority that you want to learn to do?
So sometimes, like a method people normally say is there's a SMART technique for setting goals. You should set goals that are smart, they're measurable, attainable, relatable, and there should be a time for those goals.
That's exactly what we just said. So good for you. I'm glad that you know what SMART goals are. Um,
Because because in college I attended a workshop that they told us about what smart all the five smart the different parts of the SMART method.
okay, so how can you apply it to one goal? Pick one goal. I know you talked about paying bills. You talked about paying your taxes. You talked about being independent. And I talked with you about learning a recipe, right? So take something that you actually really want to do, and let's break it down so that we can kind of create some steps. We don't want to just jump off a building. We want to go down some steps. So, what is something that you really want to do, Chardell, that we can create smart goals for?
I re a goal I wanna a goal that I want for my parents is I want to cook like a 4-course meal for my parents.
Okay, now I'm gonna write this down. You said a 4-course meal.
Yeah,
So we
like
got
a like basically a main course, uh maybe like appetizer, maybe something else in a dessert.
so a 4-course meal. I hear appetizers. I hear we want
Something else in a
entree.
dessert.
Yeah, entree, a dessert. All right. So that sounds good. That sounds great. So we are. I put that in the chat because I'm going to. I'm writing that down so that that is that is our goal. So the first thing that we would have to do, right, is start by learning recipes. We would have to start by learning recipes. And
A four
so,
course meal would consist of a soup, maybe a soup, appetizer, a entree, and a dessert. So I'm trying to, and I want to be creative. Like when I make a 4-course meal for them, I want to be creative, and I want to put my heart into it.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. All
Because
right.
that's what people say is that at my work people say that if you're not if you're not doing good at something, if they say that you're putting your heart into it, that's all we care about. Like you're trying to do your best even though you're not succeeding.
Okay. So, what I
And
just,
then I hear that from them, and that's like they I'm that's when I went to work, and I said that that's the first time when I said them saying that you put your heart into it, and that made me feel good that I did my best and I tried, but I didn't succeed. So I'm like, it really, like hearing those words from people who want to who motivate and inspire me. Those I want to hear those words from people, from my parents, from my friends, my family, everybody, my whole like emotional like circle.
absolutely. And that's positive affirmation, right? Which might even be a language for you, words of affirmation. And so, with that being said, we want to break this up. So, if we're already doing one recipe a week, it sounds like the first recipe we might want to learn is a soup.
And when I make a soup, I want to try and I think when you make a soup, I think like and when you make a main course or entree, it doesn't have to be like exquisite. It doesn't have to be that. It can be something simple, like it doesn't have to be you don't have to be like it can just be like pasta or something, or it can be something simple that you make. They just want you to make something for them. They don't care
Yeah,
what you make. They just want you to make show them that you can cook. That's all they want. That you can
absolutely.
cook a meal, right? They just wanted to see that you can actually make something and be creative with it, and you know, try and bring your your side, your cooking side out.
And also, here's another thing. Whatever you learn how to cook for your parents, which is an amazing thing. Whatever you learn how to cook for them, it's a skill you've developed now that you can use for yourself as well. So it's twofold, right? So the first recipe we're going to learn, and it could be any soup you want. But we're gonna learn to make a soup, okay? And then you're gonna come on and you are going to talk to me about the process of learning that recipe. And then, if you feel comfortable after that, we'll move on to appetizers. But we have now created a SMART goal. You want to cook a 4-course meal. When do you want to do it by? If we break all of those up, that would be a month. It would be the time period of measure would be about a month. What do you think about that?
So we'll choose the time goal of the smart method.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe every maybe you can make a soup, and then maybe you can make an appetizer, and then make an entree, and then make a dessert, and then kind of like spread it out.
Okay. Absolutely. So, what would be a time period that you want to have the first goal completed by? So, the first goal within the SMART goal would be making the soup.
Probably by this week.
Okay. So, and is that attainable? Let's ask ourselves that, because that's part of the SMART goal, is making sure that the goal is attainable. Do you think learning to
Um,
make a soup within a week is attainable for you?
I mean, like making a soup. It's not hard. It's not hard. It's just like it's pretty easy. Like you know, I know like the easiest soup that you somebody can make is tomato soup. It's the easiest. Like that's the simplest soup to make to start, and then you kind of go like you kind of go a little bit that, but maybe something you could do is that maybe you maybe with your parents you can like if if you don't know how to make a soup, probably you can watch your parents and they can teach you how to make it, and then you could make it on your own.
You
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 could
can
watch
watch
your
a
parents
YouTube
make it, and
video.
then they'll show you how to make it, and
Right,
after
Mo?
that you know how to do everything, and then you can make it.
You're going back to, I just want to make a suggestion. You can look at YouTube and find a soup that you like. You can find some cooks on your phone. You can go to YouTube and type in the type of soup you want to make, and you can watch a few videos from the ingredients that you know that makes your mouth water. You can say, "Oh, I picked the Neely's right here." There, the ingredients she has, it looks like it's going to be delicious. So I can write those things down, and I can start doing it on my own. You can pause the video. You can press play and pause. We can do everything from YouTube now, so you don't even need your parents. You can do it on your own.
So maybe
So yeah, absolutely. We have YouTube. What we don't want to do is we don't want to necessarily. I mean, we if we want it to be a project that we do with our parents, we can do that. But if we want it to be something that we do for our parents, it might be something we want to do a little bit more independently. Dante, I haven't heard you say anything, Mr. Machismo. Why don't we give some suggestions to Chardol?
I'm not a big fan of soup. but
Lord.
anywho,
I gotta laugh. Okay, I'm sorry.
but I'm a
That's
funny
how you
eater,
break the
anyway.
silence, sir.
I'm over here dying,
I was just
dying.
trying to think of one soup that the one at Wasabi, that little whatever that one is. I
Oh,
for
that onion soup.
guanton. Is
Yeah,
that onion soup?
yeah, it's onion soup. I think
I can I can
onions and mushrooms or something.
I can deal with about 4 or 5 like mouthfuls, and then it's okay. I'm ready to see something light on fire. Like I don't want no more of that. I don't know. I'm a texture eater, so I can't really
But
do that.
but just
But
as far as smart goals, though, Mr. Machismo, man to
but no,
man.
that's a great idea to because to be honest, that's kind of how I learned any type of dexterity in the kitchen was trying one thing at a time and doing it over and over. The first thing I learned was breakfast, where I started with how to scramble eggs. Then once I got good at that, I kind of figured out what was my method for making bacon. Where a lot of people use the skillet, but I prefer the oven. The oven is a lot easier to clean up. Bada boom, bada bing. Then the crown jewel, home fries. That is something that is really down, really is about your wrist. How well you season them jokers. so, so you do it a few times. One time it's gonna be extra salty. Next time it ain't gonna be salty enough. The next thing you know, you kind of just get you could eyeball it and be like, oh, that's it. Okay, that's the right amount of seasoning salt. Oh, that's the right amount of pepper. Then I used to put onion powder and garlic powder. Then I discovered one day I think I like it without the onion powder and garlic powder. I just like salt and pepper basically. And it's just practice makes perfect. And that definitely will cook it. And then just fire stuff because it ain't it's about in the long game of it, it's about what you gonna like. You can make something for them, that's great, but learn stuff that you gonna want to eat. And it might start with boiling hot dogs. It might start with something simple. Oh, I just had a flashback. Oh, do y'all remember them brown and served sausages that you?
Yeah, that those are the only sausages my 13-year-old will eat.
Man, oh, well, them taste buds are mature, but man, we talk about the ones when you put the little bit of water in there and then put the sausage in there and then you just flip it over and over. The next thing you know, you got sausages, which allegedly sausages. I
Oh
still
wow.
don't know if that's real. I don't know what that might be tofu or
Did we
something.
just say alleged sausages? Okay.
Al-
That's
Allegedly, I don't know. They can neither confirm or deny what animal that came from. I don't know. It don't look like no sausage I ever seen, but that's neither here nor there. But that and them Eggo minis was my first official breakfast. Put them boys in the toaster with the brown and served sausage. Oh, I'm off to go hoop in the summer. Bedford Heights Rec. Shout out to the Bedford Heights Rec.
wow. Okay. Well, shout out. But short all, these are just great examples of how to take a goal of wanting to learn how to cook. That's a bigger goal, and then breaking it down into a smaller goal, into a smart goal. Dante said he started off with scrambling some eggs, some mini waffles and some alleged sausages. Uh, and Mo, she started off doing something a little different. You might start off learning how to make soup on YouTube. you know Whatever you do, don't burn anybody's house down. Take it easy, step by step. Don't put the fire up too high. Maybe start with the microwave. It's all good. But finding out what works best for you, because eventually, essentially, I listening to you talk, I can tell that your goal is to be independent. You just came home from college. You have a job, but you sound like you want to go off on your own. Like like you want to learn how to drive, you want to learn how to cook for yourself and things of that nature, but you might have some anxiety around it because you've never had to do it before. It's okay. Being
I have a
brave
question.
is not Okay, one sec. Being brave is not the absence of fear. And that's really important to understand. Being brave is not the absence of fear. Okay? Sometimes we are going to be afraid. Sometimes anxiety is going to be sitting right next to us. But we keep driving. We keep driving. What were you going to say, Mo?
So I have two questions.
Okay.
How would a child stop being so dependent on their parents, and how could a parent let their child have freedom for those that may struggle with that? What are some solutions and some tips for that?
So, I think that Shortall is a great example of how someone can start to gain their independence. It starts with a want or motivation for autonomy, wanting that independence, right? If we don't have the motivation to be independent, then we're not going to take any steps toward it. It has to become an internal goal. And sometimes it can be based off of external circumstances. Like maybe you're going to school and you see everybody pulling up in a car and you're walking or riding a bus. That would be an external circumstance where you're like, man, I wanna do what they're doing. And then that becomes an external motivation. Sometimes it's internal where you're like, hey, I just want this for myself. I want to have this. I want to know this for myself. There's good anxiety, right? There's productive anxiety and unproductive anxiety. And the productive anxiety, a lot of times, is what gets us moving in the direction of learning these things and hitting these goals and milestones. Sometimes when we have parents that are shielding us from certain things, we don't develop a healthy anxiety. And so then we don't have the motivation to go out and do things. That internal motivation doesn't kick on for us. And so, a good way, just using Chardol as an example, is looking at things long term, not having a short sighted viewpoint, you know, because it is very important to understand that time moves on, and being independent is not something that you learn for yourself, but eventually you learn that societally or culturally so that you can be that to your parents, what your parents were to you, you know? And so that is a motivation, within itself. If you are a parent and you're noticing that your child isn't hitting the milestones that they should be hitting, and yes, there are specific milestones. Even in psychology, there are certain milestones, that you are supposed to meet. And so, if you notice that your child isn't hitting social milestones or societal milestones, you might have to ask yourself, okay, have I been doing too much? Do I need to pull back? And then you have to be okay with having those uncomfortable moments, because when you pull back, there is a chance for resentment. It's not like the teen or the child is mainly teen is gonna be like, oh, thank you so much for not doing all the things that you were doing for me all this time. No, it can become a source of resentment, but you have to be able to sit in that discomfort, because that friction is also going to be a catalyst for that child to hit those milestones and move out. So it's gonna be discomfort. It's gonna be anxiety provoking, but you have to have forward thought processes and make sure that you're making decisions that are going to help you not only now but in the future. I hope that answered the question. Did that answer the questions?
Yes, I have another one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay, so with my kids, when you talk about looking at yourself, or looking at, or making observations of what needs to be changed, many people are not aware of where their children milestones should be. So let me give you an example. So, correction officer, where I worked with juveniles for a long time, worked with boys ages from 10 in jail. From, I say no, the youngest was probably 7 that was in jail, 7 to 21. Many people misunderstood the young men when they would become angry. My boys will fight all the time and then they'll be done with it. However, they didn't understand that they were not properly taught how to process their emotions. So, yeah, I'm going to flip the table. I'm going to throw the PlayStation down. I'm going to punch Big Mike in the head. You know what I'm saying? And so, how would a parent assess what needs to be changed for their children, and what areas should be assessing?
Real quick before you hop in there, a 7-year old was in the clink clink.
Yeah, somebody he shot. Yeah, yeah, he shot his stepmother in the head or something.
Oh, so, wow.
Mhm.
That's I ain't gonna lie. That stopped me in my tracks for a second.
So
Yeah.
I'm like,
and
my little
in those cases, there might be something um, more going there.
With not the baby, but I'm just saying, like, with kids in general, how, or parents, how do they assess what changes need to be made, or what they're missing to assist their children, when you were talking about milestones? Because in our culture, it appears, in my culture, it appears that many of us are not taught how to properly manage our emotions when we're small. So we do so many things because that's something that we were not taught about, how to process our emotions. So, you know.
So there are, and I'm going to go back to Erickson, and this is not necessarily emotional maturity as much as it is life's um, phases. The first stage is trust and mistrust, right?
Hmm.
And then the so it says the first stage is the trust and mistrust. At this point, the child develops, whether or not they can trust their caregiver, and whether or not they can trust their caregiver. In all honesty, will move them either towards trust in individuals or mistrust in individuals. So it's kind of like it produces a lens for them, where either I see the world as a safe place or I see the world as an unsafe place. And it starts as early as infancy. And so the doctors tell you what milestones you should be looking at for infancy. They'll tell you, well, your kid is, your baby is 6 months. Are they crawling? Are they like they if you take them to regular appointments, a doctor will sit you down and ask you all of the things that your child is doing, and that continues. When you go to the doctor as your child is getting older, the doctor will sit you down. Is your child still sucking his or her thumb? Are they able to talk to you about this or say these words, or are they reading at least this many words, and so there's that aspect of it, where if you're keeping up with regular doctor's appointments and things like that, there's things that you're going to know. But from an emotional standpoint, you know you have to ask yourself, my kid is 3 years old and they're throwing a temper tantrum. Okay, well, societally, we know about the terrible twos and the terrible threes, right? And so we'll say, okay, this falls into a societal phase. And so but then if your kid is 7, 8 years old and they're still throwing those same temper tantrums, that is not a social norm. It's not a social norm. And so when you see your child going into phases that are outside of social norm, it's time to talk to a doctor about that. It's time to research that a little bit, learn about that a little bit. Why is this happening? Maybe my kid has ADHD, or maybe my child is not developing emotionally at the rate that they are, quote unquote, supposed to be. But there's a lot of things that we can fall back on, even if we're not psychologists or therapists. There's things we can fall back on, typically social norms, going to regular doctor's appointments, reporting what's going on with our kid, being in social situations where our kid is around other kids. Because parents know, you know, if when you feel anxious taking your kid around anybody else's kid, because your kid gonna bust the other kid upside down. Like, you know your kid. You know your kid. Now, you might be in denial about your kid. You might not want to face that something's going on with your kid, but you know your kid. You know. And if your kid is not within social norms, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that there's something wrong with your kid, but it does mean that there needs to be a conversation. And if it's something that you're doing, like maybe every time you get upset and you 30 years old and you throwing stuff across the room, maybe look internally. Maybe it's a learned behavior. Maybe you're still having temper tantrums. But you have to be able and willing to self-evaluate too. Because a lot of times when I did a lot of my in-home work, when I was first starting in the field, there were a lot of parents that wanted to just, say, hey, this is what's going wrong with my kid. My kid is the problem. All right, goodbye. But then when you watch the parent interact with the child, they're doing the same stuff the kid is doing. They have emotional regulation issues. They have impulse control issues. They're having temper tantrums, stumping around and getting an attitude and cursing everybody out. It looks different because you can probably you probably have a different vocabulary than a 7-year-old, at least I would hope. But it's the same thing. You're teaching them these maladaptive behaviors. So, there's also that part where the parent has to be reflective and self-aware. And sometimes that's the piece that's missing. Not the I can't tell anything is going on with my kid, but the self-awareness piece.
Yeah, definitely. I think as a parent, like you kind of are the first line of defense with kind of defending the kid from going left to center because you are the one that's around them the most, the one that is in tune with them the most. Now, of course, they're gonna have friends and different outlets that may get a different part of them, but you should have kind of more of the kid than anyone else. But it can vary with each situation. There's a lot of variables with that. But it's kind of know your personnel type of situation with kids. Like, especially when they act out, like, it'd be reasons for stuff. Like, perfect example. I said all that to say, I had a flashback to, I was, started participating in what was called Bigger, Faster, Stronger. It was like a program where we just had certain measurements that we did to grow, with strength training. And there was even supplements that we took, which this I found out wasn't supplements. It was something that was not so great. But they suggested that we started taking creatine, which is like it's basically something that kind of like it makes you recover quicker, but come to find out it has certain products in it that's similar to steroids. So I began to kind of break out. And keep in mind, this, in the middle of adolescence, 15, 16 years old. So I'm taking this stuff, but I'm getting strong. It's going down. But I'm noticing some pimples, some acne. But then the catalyst moment, I was in my room and I had like 2 or 3 friends over, and we was playing one of the greatest video games ever, James Bond 007 on Nintendo 64, which is showing my age, but I digress. So something happens. I don't even know what happens. And somebody did something. I literally punched the crap out of this one dude in my room and throw my fish sandwich at him. Keep in mind, I've never had any erratic behavior of that nature prior to. So this was an aberration. But, this was something that, if some parents would be like, oh my goodness, this is, but Mom Dukes, she got she found out what happened because she heard all the commotion and whatnot. And then, then a little later, maybe the next day or so, she got the pulling me to the side like, when the last time you took some of that stuff you be using to lift? And then And then then just out the blue, like I don't know, yesterday I think. And it's like we're gonna just keep this under the sink. Don't take no more of that. And come to find out, I never had a problem after that. And come to find out, the products in the stuff was literally like had steroids in it. So that's what caused the outburst or that behavior. But someone else could be like, "Oh, he needs counseling," and but really, if you know that kid and you know that was an aberration, there there's a different approach to it than say somebody that has a history or something of certain behavior. So that's I think that's important because sometimes even with teachers, like they can see a kid for a year and it just was a bad year. They grandmother could have passed. They moved. They could have been part of a divorce, and it was just a couple months of just bad behavior, or they just was upset and expressed it in a certain way, and now this kid on Ritalin. This kid dealing with this negative connotation behind his name, all because he had an aberration or he was just going through a rough time. That's why the parent has to be cognizant of that kid and know that kid because a lot of kids get blackballed. I don't seen it. I don't seen it in let's just say in certain non let's just say certain certain neighborhoods that isn't as diverse as others. There may be stereotypes that go to certain groups of people, certain groups of kids that are unfair to all of those to all of those kids. Maybe a couple of those kids, that's a fair assessment, but the vast majority, that's not the case. There's other factors that come into play, and it's a little upsetting that I believe that really has happened to a great deal of society, and that has those issues at a young age has made adult issues that far surpass what could have been nipped in the butt early.
Somebody could definitely be having a bad moment, you know. I think you were having a special circumstance, taking creatine and maybe not knowing exactly what was in it, being young and not understanding what was happening with your body. Also, as an adolescent, we're already hormonal. So that's a thing. That is like already a thing. But the great thing about teachers more now than in the past is that they go through early childhood education training. They go through stages of development training. Where they look at things and but there's a lot of teachers now that won't just jump to a conclusion. Even when my middle child, when they thought that she was ADHD and attentive type, they didn't just say, okay, well, we had her see a school psychologist and this is what we came up with and this is what's going on. No, they called me. They said, hey, I'm seeing some behaviors in school. Are you seeing these behaviors at home? How long have these behaviors been present at home? They'll say, hey, I've known, her, or I've been working with her for over a year or two, and I'm seeing that these behaviors are consistent. Are you seeing these behaviors at home? Sometimes, because I used to work with a lot of schools as well, and one thing you'll find is that the parent, and I'm not saying this is all parents, but in some cases, the parent didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to talk to the teacher. They didn't want to talk to the school. They didn't want to have a diagnosis because then they would be responsible for having to do something more. They would have to make sure that the child took a medication, or they would have to, and if they didn't want to go that route, sit down with that child and actually be accountable for being more patient with that child, giving that child the appropriate breaks, or whatever the case may be. And the parent didn't want that accountability. They didn't want to have the responsibility of knowledge, and so there would be a disconnect between the school and the parent. Now with me, when they called me, I was on board. I'm like, okay, what are you seeing? What's going on? This is what I'm seeing. What can we do? Because at the end of the day, it hurts the child when we're not cognizant of what's going on, or willing to accept what's going on. It's not hurting us in the long run. It's hurting the child. But Dante, I do understand what you're saying. When you're like, hey, this person could be having a bad. I mean, I'll give you a week. I might even give you a month. But a whole consecutive year, I don't know. There might be, if it's more than 6 months, there might be something else going on, and whether it is some episodic depression, or some situational depression based on something that they've just recently gone through, whether it's an adjustment disorder, maybe they had a major change, and and they're having a hard time dealing with it. Just think, things of that nature. But a whole year, there's something else going on. There's something else going on, unless somebody died every day, and then we got to figure out what's going on with that family. but but I digress. With that being said, I'm not gonna keep you guys too much longer. I actually have somewhere that I have to go. But I appreciate Chardell for joining. Dante and Mojo, I appreciate you all for being part of my panel. I really would like to have you guys here every week, if that's something you guys can do, and if not, just, let me know ahead of time, because I would definitely love to have you guys, here every week with me, giving your perspective. Um, Short, I'm going to hold you accountable. You're supposed to be learning a recipe, and then you're going to come on. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the experience. If you were able to actually cook the food, we'll talk about that. But we definitely want to work you towards that autonomy, and that independence that you're seeking. So thank you for everybody who joined. Um, Online. Thank you for anybody who joined on Facebook, on YouTube. Thank you for all the people who joined on Call In. Thank you for all of the likes on TikTok. We're here typically every Thursday around 6 o'clock, sometimes like 6:10, 6:15. I'm just saying, that's just the truth. And but we're here, and we're here to help, and that means that there might be some constructive confrontation. I'm not on here to be all smiles with everybody. Sometimes we need to confront some things, and sometimes that's hard, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
But we do need to get to the bottom of what's going on, so that we can find out what the next steps are. And
I
Chardell, we know your next steps. Mo, did you
I
want to
have
say anything?
Yes, ma'am. I need to be held accountable right quick with Chardell. I have to be held accountable too. So I went to a Browns event today and did a little mixer after I got off of work. And so I felt a little overwhelmed. Let me get straight to the point so you go to your thing. I need to be held accountable. And I next week I need to have something done. So do I want to share what do I want to share? I need to have at least three things for this business idea. I met with some people from Columbus, with the Department of Development, with the for the state of Ohio. I told her my idea. She was like, "Oh, that's bomb, girl. This is what I need you to do." So I think I might have to call off of work tomorrow and go where she told me to go and get some things done. And then she said if I send her email when I do what she told me to do and show it, she'll send the email to somebody else and help get this thing going. You hear what I'm saying?
I hear what you're
And
saying. Sounds good.
it do, but I'm overwhelmed. I have some feelings of being overwhelmed. Like, oh, this may be too much, but I know that it's a great idea, and for her to say that she'll send a contact and she don't even know me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I need to get things moving, but I just feel so overwhelmed.
Okay. Embrace it. because in any and every time we're doing something new or something big is about to break through, that feeling of overwhelm is going to be there. Take that and take whatever positive and productive anxiety lives within that and use it to catapult you. We'll talk more about this offline, but what I will do is we'll hold you accountable for three. You said three. What are the three things that you have to do?
Okay, let's. Okay, I feel like this is the part where I'm overwhelmed. I need to have everything laid out as in um it's starting a business, so I need to have some things. I don't want to say everything on here because you're on so many
You
platforms.
okay? You don't have to. You don't have
um
to. It's okay.
I just need to get my structure in order. How about
Okay.
that? That's the first thing I need to do. Basic structure for the business first, for this idea.
Okay.
And
So what?
so
So what we'll do? So everybody heard that Michael Sherdall, Mr. Machismo, and whoever else is listening. We all heard Mojo. She said she's trying to start a business. She has a great business idea. We're not gonna say the business idea because we wanted to keep it her idea. And
yeah.
but she she's trying to get some things laid out. She wants to get the structure in order. So her and I are going to break up some of the steps offline. And so Mo, just send me a text message. We'll break up some of those steps offline, and then we will talk about it in general sense, about how the business is going, and if you've been able to do any of the steps, and if not, what barriers are in the way. Shirt all, same thing. If you have not learned and made a recipe, and not the 4-course meal, and I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about one of the courses, one of them. If you have not done that by the next time we meet, which is next week, I want to know barriers. I want to know why. What is keeping us from doing these things that we set out to do? So with that being said, thank you, Mo's mom, for joining. You caught us right at the end. Everybody has their assignments. We're going to do it. I am a great accountability partner because I will call you out, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining, and it's been fun.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you for everyone that is still on, whether you're watching from YouTube or Facebook. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching the replay. I appreciate you all. Definitely feel free to catch the recap. And we're also on Spotify for podcasts. We are on Google Podcasts, and we're also on Apple Podcasts. You can also join us live next Thursday, around 6 o'clock. I would give us at least until 6:15, because life is lifing, But I definitely appreciate everyone who listens, everyone who supports. That's how we grow. So share the word, and if you're interested in booking an appointment with me, I am accepting new clients, couples, families, adults. Um, Go to www.supportiveadvice.com, and you'll learn all you need to know about how to set up an appointment. I'll talk to you all soon.